Hi, I'm Dave Koch. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to address the question of, is real estate photography still a viable career? Not only in terms of market and market saturation, but AI and things like that. And I think these are all important things you need to consider if you're either already in the market or considering becoming a real estate photographer. Well, I'll give you the TLDR right now. It depends. It really depends on you, your goals, and your commitment. In my opinion, and in what I know, 80% of all photography businesses are going to fail in the first year, 75, 80, something like that. It's a tremendously high amount, and you have to know that going in. And the first thing you have to know is you're not going to do business the first year, probably not the second year. It's going to be minimum 3, probably 5 years until you can actually make money being a real estate photographer. You need to know that right up front, going right in. All these people that tell you, you're going to make $10,000 a month. Yeah, no. The real story is get ready for a long dry spell. So you better have a lot of money saved up, because while the cost to entry into real estate photography is relatively low, you also have to consider that you've got to be able to finance yourself through 2, 3, 5 years of not having enough business to make money. So that's your first consideration. Do you have the stick-to-itiveness to get through that? The real estate market isn't, and the expansion of it is not, I don't think, over, but I do think it has changed and changed tremendously. I think one thing, we are not in the go-go 2021, 2022. It's definitely calmed down then. And we've seen a lot of those people who are doing it as extra income, or they think that the cost to entry is so low that this will be an easy job. We're seeing a lot of them fall out. And again, like I said, if you've got the stick-to-itiveness, you'll make it. But the people you're seeing falling out of the market are the people who didn't realize that going in and weren't ready for that, or who just weren't focused. I think another sort of photographer that enters the market and does not do well is those that think they can be all things to all people. They're a wedding photographer, an engagement photographer, high school senior portrait photographer, and a real estate photographer. And you can do 1 or 2 of those things probably very, 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 very well. But real estate photography doesn't mix well in that other group of portrait and people things. There are a complete different set of rules that if you don't know, understand, live, and breathe, will shoot you down as a professional real estate photographer. Take, for instance, I don't know this to be most, but generally you will see wedding and photographers shooting handheld, no tripod, blah, 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 blah. And with no attention to, your level. Whereas with real estate photography, that's primary. You have to be straight, flat, and level. Unless you do that every day or close to every day, you're not going to accomplish that. And that's just one example among a myriad of things that I think become apparent to a real estate photographer when they do it all the time. But when they do it once a month, if that, they don't know, they haven't internalized, and they can't compete at the level that a full-time real estate photographer can. So just throwing that out. Another thing you need to be aware of is, as I see it, there are 2 basic models for real estate photographers. There's the volume model and there's the luxury model. I obviously am in the latter model. I am not throwing any shade on the volume model. It's a real, and it's something that the market demands. It is a very important portion of our business, not my business, of our business. Anyway, the point I wanted to make with that is know going up front which of these two lines you're going to go down. I actually at one point tried to do the HDR and the luxury, and it doesn't mix, because once you're identified as one or the other, you don't really cross over. People hire you as a luxury photographer and not as a, a budget shooter, shall we say, or the volume shooter. The volume shooter is the person who shoots 3 to 5 homes a day, typically shoots HDR, typically is in and out of a house in 30 minutes, because when you're doing 3 to 5 homes a day, you have to, with drive times and all that. The luxury photographer, my model, is more 1, possibly 2 homes a day, and I spend a lot of time in them, 3 to 5 hours shooting them. And my prices are a lot higher. My turnaround is 2 to 4 days rather than overnight. But again, 2 different markets, 2 different sets of expectations. And even though I make more per job than a volume dealer might, I think at the end of the day, we both make the same, roundabout same type of money, just in different ways. So pick your path, stick to it. Speaking of income, what kind of income can you make? What should you expect? If you're beginning, maybe $100 to $200 per house, and it really depends. It depends on what your experience level is coming in. It also depends on your market and who you're marketing to. If you're just building a career, you're probably going to be on the lower end of that. As you build your career more and more and build up your portfolio, you're going to be higher end. But once you become mid-tier and you're shooting 3 to 5 homes a week, something like that, you can get up to 200, 400. And at this point, you're making more money because you're adding more options, typically too. At this point, you're adding Matterport, you're adding drone, you're adding floor plans, things like that. So, the cost of what you're giving has gone up, and that's going to increase how much you can make too. At the top level, the sky's the limit. You can make a lot of money, well over $1,000 a day in luxury. In that market, you have to have a portfolio that supports that price level. And it's just not something you can just walk into. You can't walk into a city and say, I'm going to be a luxury photographer, unless you've got a portfolio to back that up. If you're just starting out, you have to start at the bottom and work your way up and show that that's something that you can do. And that's a valuable thing to do too, because that's how you get experience. That 2, 3, 5 years that you spend at the bottom shooting the $100 to $200 per shoot homes are where you do all the learning that's going to get you to the next level and make your value more than $100 to $200. So you got to put in the time, you got to put in the grind, but that's where you make your future money. Now let's talk about AI. I know a lot of people are worried about AI and think AI is going to take their jobs. Well, in my opinion, it's not us as photographers that need to worry. It's our editors maybe, but it's not us. The thing about especially real estate is, as you hopefully know, you cannot fake anything. You cannot erase power lines when the power lines go over the property, things like that. You can't fake things, which means you can't go to AI and say, give me 20 interior shots of the house at 222 Maple. It's always going to take someone like us to go out there and do it. There are always going to be the realtors who think they can do it with their, I don't have it here, but with their iPhone. And what I would say to that is, that's not your competition. If they think they're getting a good enough image with their iPhone, with them doing it, they're not prepared to pay for someone like you or I to come shoot that house. So that isn't a job you've lost. That's a job you would never get, not your competition. So those I would discount. I think there's always going to be a need for professional photography at whatever level, at the HDR level, at the mid-level, at the high range, because there are so many different homes still for sale and so many different photographers to fill those and so many different realtors with needs in those different ranges. You can't be the photographer for all those different ranges. You're going to have to pick one and stick to it. But you will find that there are realtors that need photographers in each of those levels and will come to you if you present both the quality that they need and the price for that quality. So what does it take to make it? One is a realistic idea of what the market is like. One is to treat it like a business. Don't just think, oh, I take good pictures, I'm going to survive. You won't. You need to approach it like a business. You need to have a business plan, and you need to have contingencies for when things go wrong. You need to invest in learning, not just gear. And that means going to conferences and workshops and pushing yourself to get better. You need to understand branding, marketing, and social media. That's going to get your name out there, get you more exposure and more hires. And don't ignore branding, because it's very important that people know who you are. If you are just a real estate photographer, the different tiers of realtors are in some ways going to just ignore you because they're looking for a specific type of photographer. Brand yourself to what you are shooting and stick to that brand. Be a good communicator, show up on time, show up neatly dressed, and be good at customer service. Customer service is super important to making your business succeed. Be the easiest and best photographer that your realtors know, and you will get hired. So, is it worth getting into real estate photography in 2025? Yes, if you're doing it long term, if you know that this is a long-term proposition and you're into it long term. If you think you're just going to get in because all you need is a camera and a drone, you're going to soon find that you don't have any clients or customers. You have to make a long-term goal and work at it and work hard at it. You also have to be better than good enough. You have to be the person that people want to hire, not just because your pictures are really good, but because you're fun to work with and you're trustworthy. You show up on time and people like that. The answer is no if you think this is just a really good way to get paid for taking pictures, or now I can write off all the cameras I want to buy. You're not going to be in the business and you're not going to be successful for very long. So if you want to get into the business and you want to stay in the business, start by getting my real estate photographer's beginner's guide. That's at rephoto.net, rephoto.net. Download that, that's free. I also have a beginning photographer course. It's $39, not very expensive at all. I definitely get that. That's a lot more in-depth and will teach you a lot of what you need to know. I hope you've learned something here, and I hope this has been helpful. If so, definitely like, and if you like the way I present, subscribe to the channel. It'd be really helpful. In the meantime, I hope your next shoot is your best shoot.